This is Montreux, famous for the jazz festival.
Very easily, of trains, local buses, so they can stay in surrounding villages
25,000
and
population
enjoy the concerts as
for
well.
the jazz festival.
Now, the
They
Montreux
get
Jazz Festival, it started in
250,000.
the acts would perform in the Montreux Casino. Here in Switzerland, a casino is a casino. Bring your passport and your money. But it's also an event space. And that's where they were performing until 1971. Casino, burning it to the ground. Yes, and there was a band here witnessing that event. And they wrote, yes, quite the famous song. Dun, dun, dun. Now on the right, that large building that we were just passing, that is where they're performing now. That's the main stages are inside there. And then they have auxiliary smaller stages all throughout the city. Here, look on your right, we have the Jazz Park. Ella and Aretha and B.B. King and Carlos Santana's even in there. Got them all.
Pretty much the northern end of Lake Geneva, or as they say, Lac Léman. And we've gotten off to see a statue of Freddie Mercury, who fell in love with the place and moved in. Here in this new building is where they have many of the events for the annual Montreux Jazz Festival. But I suppose they have small musical events here during the festival. I guess that's a diving platform, and I suppose the statue's over there. Amazing roadway. It's a bridge that goes probably for a couple miles. Here we are at the Chateau de Chillon, made famous by a poem from Lord Byron. And it sits out here in Lake Geneva. It's the only moat I've ever seen that was part of a lake.
Our castle is a very unusual shape. We used to see rectangular, square castles. This one has an oval shape, and this is because it was built on an island, a natural rocky island, and it took the island shape. On the mountain side of the castle, the way you came to Chillon, you could see the two big walls. There are three defense towers. There's the keep in the middle, the main tower. It's obviously a fortress on that part. Chillon. In the Middle Ages, that road is a part of the Via Francigena, a very important pilgrimage road going from England to Rome in Italy, and also a very important commercial road across Europe. So controlling Chillon meant controlling most of the trades in that part of Europe. And collecting taxes on the goods made the owners of the castle very, very rich. Wine production started in Chillon in 1292, and we still make our wine with the same grape they used in the Middle Ages. And well, now we make both red and white wines, and these wines you can only drink or buy them in the castle, big goods, and everything is stored in that part of the cellars. We can imagine draperies, jewelry, gems, but a lot of food. The main food in the Middle Ages is bread. 1 kilogram bread per person and per day, bread, cereals, vegetables. If you're poor, only bread and vegetables, and if you the farther they come from, the more expensive and the better they are. They like cooking with a lot of spices in the Middle Ages. Saffron, cinnamon, pepper, ginger. Salt is also a very valuable commodity. We are in Switzerland. We don't have any access to the sea, to salted water. So maybe you think people were killed in here during the Middle Ages, then the corpse is thrown directly into the lake, through the postern, the little door. Not at all. This is nothing historical. This is a marketing idea from the 19th century. No one was ever killed in here during the Middle Ages. Not because they were such kind people, but because executions had to be public to serve as an example. Yeah. So it's on a marketplace, never inside a cellar. That would be Chillon. His name was François Bonivat. François Bonivat is a nobleman from Geneva in the 16th century. He's a member of the House of Savoy, but he got into trouble with the Duke for financial reasons. And he's sent in prison very, very far away from Geneva at the time. The first 2 years he stayed in a cozy apartment of the castle. He's a nobleman. But then the Duke thought it's a bit sweet for him, so they sent him for 4 more years to this prison. And during 4 years, he was tied to this pillar. And we still have the metallic ring where he was tied during 4 years.
He was a priest.
Remember Bonifat's name.
4 wives
that
and
make him famous.
close to 20 kids.
Lord Byron, George IV. Then he heard about Bonifat's story, and that story impressed him very much. It's the story of a prisoner, of an exile in Chillon. He's an exile in Switzerland. So when he went back to Geneva, where he lived during that year, he wrote a poem called The Prisoner of Chillon. And that poem is immediately very, very successful at the time, and visitors start coming to Chillon. They want to see this so famous prison.
So it's
and
a
the
keep.
next century, they built higher parts of the tower, and close to the windows at the top, you can see some crannies. And there's an opening in the wall. This is not a window. This used to be the main entrance for the keep. In case of danger, in the Middle Ages, they would climb up a ladder, then take the ladder inside, and they're safe. Bailiff's dining room is one of the 4 dining rooms of the castle. Dinners are so important in the Middle Ages. That room is 800 years old, from the 13th century.
This is 600 years old.
Bernstein, restoration. This room is a complete summary of the castle history and the different orders of the castle. Usually in the Middle Ages, the most important person, the lord or the bailiff, is seated in front of the fireplace. Best position. A luxury room. This room is only missing one thing to be perfect: toilets. But there are some toilets
there we go.
in this room.
Right there.
These chairs, these wooden chairs, these are commode chairs. At the time you could lift the top, there's a pot inside, so during the night you're doing your business, and in the morning a servant would come, take the pot and throw everything directly into the lake. Through the night, an enemy
You can wash your hands here.
and wants to kill you. This room
This
was
is
a
the bathroom.
but for his family, his wife, maybe. In the Middle Ages, it's very polite to invite your guest to have a bath together. You should try this back at home, to invite your friend to have a bath together. Glasses for the good Chillon wine, and enjoy your time with your guests in the tub. We always think about people in the past, in the Middle Ages, being dirty, not washing themselves. That's not true. They are washing every visible part of the body many times a day, and the bath, it's once a week. In the town, in the cities, there are some public baths, but in the 15th century, the governments started thinking, oh, all of these guys, men and women naked together in the public bath, we don't know what's happening in there. So they started closing the public bath, and that's the beginning of the private bathroom, only in the 15th century. With your friends, here you can talk about politics, talk about business, hence the words doing his business. That's from the time.
Oh, that's how that came.
In German, they call the toilets, they use an old word, Sprachhaus, meaning the place where we talk together. Toilets are always weak points because they are openings in the walls. So some enemies could try, but these ones, for the Count of Savoy, it's 13 meters high, directly above the lake. It's arrow slits and loopholes to shoot at enemies from inside the castle. And they also built the defense towers. And at the top of the towers, you can see these little arches, like a little balcony. This is called machicolations. There are holes in it, so the defenders could drop some stones from boiling water on the attackers. That was a pretty good
They
defense
poured
system.
boiling water, not oil. Oil was way too expensive to dump on invaders. Here we are leaving the Chateau de Chillon. Thought I'd get a view of the waterfront.